I think there's a problem when your campaign is led by somebody who has herself just been humiliated or has done a sort of whoopsie in the wrong place, like a dog that's looking a little bit sheepish after having left a present in the middle of the carpet. And the government's move to prescribe Palestine Action as a terrorist organization, and in particular, the absurd spectacle of defending that group in Parliament, led by people who themselves face accusations of anti Semitic rhetoric, and specifically Diane Abbott, it's sort of shameful and absurd. It's mawkish, it's ridiculous. There's something darkly comic about the fact that a fight against prescription is being championed by figures who have only just survived their own disciplinary dramas over alleged anti-Semitic remarks. But the irony shouldn't blind us to the real danger here. The government's response is itself disproportionate, authoritarian, and sets a dangerous precedent. Let's begin with the obvious. Diane Abbott, one of the leading Labour MPs rebelling against this move, has just emerged from yet another row over social media comments that are rightly denounced as anti-Semitic and ill-advised. She has used highly emotive, even inflammatory language in describing Israeli policy, which her critics say crosses the line from condemnation of a government to incitement against a people. She confuses the word Israel with the word Jewish. Now, in the same breath, she wants to pose as a defender of Palestine Action's right to protest. One might ask, is this truly a principled stand for civil liberty, or the familiar indulgence of factional virtue signalling by somebody who frankly doesn't seem to know what she's talking about? It's hard to credit the sincerity of the defence when it's led by those who have no serious effort to address legitimate concerns about anti-Jewish rhetoric in their own camp. And more than that, when you talk to people in her constituency and they say, oh, we were waiting to see her open a school fete or something, we waited in vain because she cancelled at the last minute. Not once, but twice. This undermines the case against prescription, doesn't it? And it weakens public sympathy for civil liberties when they are most in need of defence. But hypocrisy aside, let's examine the government's move on its own merits. To classify Palestine Action as a terrorist group against the terrorism under the Terrorism Act of 2000 is a grotesque overreaction. Their offences, for all the drama, are neither novel nor on the scale of terrorism. In fact, they are the same sort of acts of civil disobedience that this country has tolerated and even celebrated in the past. Remember Greenham Common? Women cutting fences and painting missile silos to protest nuclear weapons? Or the Fairford Five in 2003 who disrupted bombers bound for Iraq? Their case was defended by none other than, Keir Starmer, on the basis that they were trying to prevent war crimes. What's different now? The target is Israel. The government is embarrassed, complicit in arming a military campaign in Gaza that has led to mass civilian deaths and accusations of genocide. So they escalate and label dissent as terror. Then there's the matter of the alleged threat to national security. Yes, two activists got into an RAF base and spray-painted aircraft. Frankly, this is a greater embarrassment than RAF security. For RAF security, then it's evidence of terrorism. This is evidence of stupidity on the part of the RAF. If protesters with e-scooters and repurposed fire extinguishers can breach a military installation, then perhaps we should be asking why our security protocols are so inadequate. Instead, we criminalize protest. We redefine non-violent sabotage as equipment, as terrorism, rather than recognizing it as the latest in a long line of direct action protests against government policy. We should worry about a state that prefers to expand anti-terror powers instead of fixing its own glaring failures. What does this prescription achieve? It ensures that any member of Palestine Action, or even those who give them moral or material support, faces up to 14 years in prison. Oh, I should point out, I have no sympathy for Palestine Action. I simply don't agree with its prescription. It means you could be criminalized for sending them money, writing them letters in prison, or even saying you agree with their aims. It's a classic authoritarian drift. As Lord Falconer, a former Labour Justice Secretary, has observed, the offence at Bryce Norton could be prosecuted as criminal damage. There's no need for counter-terror powers. The real aim is here to crush dissent, to send a message. Do not protest our complicity in the Gaza war. Do not even draw attention to the weapons we sell. We're fast becoming a country where visible disruptive dissent is reclassified as terrorism to silence the moral embarrassment of it all. And it's truly absurd that a measure of such authoritarian overreach is being opposed by figures whose own credibility is so compromised. Let's not be distracted by the failings of Diane Abbott or Zara Sultana or any other grandstanding MP. The real scandal here is the government's cynical use of terror legislation to silence protest about its role in an unfolding humanitarian catastrophe. If the Labour leadership truly wants to prove it's not in thrall to lobbying interests, it might start by defending civil liberties, even for those it finds politically inconvenient. Otherwise, we all pay the price in diminished freedom and democratic decay. And you may say, oh, well, you always seem to be supporting people you don't like. That's exactly the point. That is the principle of democracy. I support the people I don't like. I support their the freedom that should be theirs to protest and to say things that I don't agree with. That is the principle of living in a democratic society where freedom is greater than coercion, where freedom champions control.